My name is Ben Fordham, and over the past few years I've been lucky enough to get to know a young bloke called Michael Ponticello, who's been diagnosed with leukaemia. Through Michael, I've come to know the Stephen Walter Children's Cancer Foundation, which was established in 2000 to raise funds and form partnerships to support vital research into a cure for childhood cancer. Its mission is 100% survival for all children diagnosed with cancer and the prevention of their suffering. Stephen Walter was 19 when he passed away after an 8-year battle with cancer. Diagnosed with a tumour in a bone in his right leg at age 11, Stephen didn't let that get in the way of his enjoyment of life. He was passionate about many things: family, friends and motorbikes, to name just a few. In his last days, he called on everyone he knew to commit themselves to a mission: to find a cure for childhood cancer.
The thing that keeps me going is that I don't want other children, families to go through what we've been through. The worst thing that can happen to any parent is to lose their child. So with what we're doing, as my purpose really is to try and help other families not have to go through that. So the best way to do that is to raise money for research, because research is the answer to finding a cure and prevention for childhood cancer.
The Foundation is very grateful to its corporate sponsors for the support they've shown in joining the mission to find a cure for childhood cancer. The Foundation also hosts a range of events each year to raise funds. Each year since 2001, the Foundation has hosted the Snowy Ride, where thousands of motorcyclists gather in the scenic Snowy Mountains region of New South Wales to take part in the charity ride and raise money for research into a cure. As part of the annual Snowy Ride, sponsors have also made possible the Snowy Ride Family Program.
The Snowy Ride offers 7-8 families every year the most fabulous weekend away, and all families talk about how terrific it was and how it gave them the opportunity to be a family again and focus and just recharge their batteries.
It's just such an amazing experience and refreshing experience after all the drama and angst that you've been through, just to relax and just have fun. You know, but being around people that understand what you've gone through.
Family life is fractured. It's a very difficult process to navigate. So if we can put something in place to try and help people move through the process, I think that's an important step.
What might inspire one person is not something that inspires somebody else, because you see different things. But, I go back to 1997 when Steve was 16. He rode an Australian 4-day enduro. Now with that you have to, it's 8 to 10 hours a day on the bike, where you have to do all your own maintenance and nobody can help you, and it's an extremely difficult event. Steve started that event knowing that he had to go back to hospital for treatment, as he had relapsed just before that. So he did that event, he rode that event. He got a silver medal. Sunday afternoon, packed everything up on the trailer, went home. And then Monday morning he's in having treatment again for cancer. And that was the last event that Steve rode.
Childhood cancer is the second most common cause of death in Australian children. Over 800 children are diagnosed each year. And at any one time in Australia, more than 1,500 children are on active treatment for cancer or at risk of relapse.
Stephen's oncologist is actually Professor Glenn Marshall, and he's the head of Kids Cancer Centre at Sydney Children's Hospital. But he's also a researcher, he's a scientist apart from being an oncologist. And his laboratory is based at Children's Cancer Institute on the grounds of the University of New South Wales.
It seems to begin in embryo cells in many children, and so we've come a long way in trying to understand what those key drivers are, if you like, at the very beginning in the womb, and then trying to come up with, we've taken the view that we want to come up with a medication that we can actually give children to try and prevent it.
Maria was diagnosed with a primitive neuroectodermal tumour, which is abbreviated to a PNET, at the age of 3 months old, so 3 months, no years. She was only a little baby. Basically, she had a prolonged chemotherapy treatment for 19 months, and which followed with radiation for 25 rounds, which is 25 days of radiation therapy.
Most chemotherapy treatments that are being used today to treat cancer are called cytotoxic, which basically means toxic to cells.
Today in Australia there are probably over 18,000 young adults who are survivors of childhood cancer, and by current estimates about a third of these people will have, as young adults, some sort of health consequence as a result of their successful treatment.
So far we've found that she's missing 8 adult teeth, and they're missing, meaning that they will never grow.
The treatment side effects that Michael's endured up to this point would have to be, first of all, like the standard ones of vomiting, nausea, headaches. But the worst ones were he suffered a seizure due to one of the drugs that he was given. It caused a blood clot to the brain, which resulted in a partial stroke and a seizure at the same time.
And they put me in a induced coma for a few days, or one day. And then when I woke up, I was in intensive care, and it wasn't pleasant at all.
Modern treatments are still incorporating very old drugs that have been around for 40 or 50 years. And these have sort of like a blunderbuss approach to cancer, where they're injuring almost as many normal cells as they are the cancer cells.
The research that Stephen Walter Children's Cancer Foundation supports is carefully selected. The foundation funds a range of clinical trials and research fellowship positions. The focus is now on new research that has not progressed to a point where it attracts government funding.
I listened to one of the professors once saying about this, and what his comment was is that's where the gold is. That's where it's going to come from. The breakthrough isn't going to come from what we already know.
We've improved the cure rates over something like 50 or 60 years, from almost zero to around about averaging 80%. But to go from 80% to 100% is actually very hard, because it requires invention around the types of drugs and better diagnostics, and probably personalisation of cancer care.
And Glenn's laboratory is actually called Stephen Walter Laboratory. I think Glenn and Steve had a fabulous relationship, and over the years, due to the work that we've done and wanted to support his research, he was honoured to name his laboratory after Steve.
That makes all of us at the foundation very proud to be able to walk into that room and see Steve's name on the door and know what it's there for and what we're hoping it's going to achieve.
The foundation has established a scientific review committee that comments and provides guidance on research projects seeking funding.
To make an informed decision, we need some expert advice, and that's what the Scientific Advisory Committee does. They give us the advice that that program is worthy of funding and that there is a chance of a result. And it just shows that the credibility of what we're trying to do, and that's what things revolve around, is that credibility.
Since 2001, Stephen Walter Children's Cancer Foundation has committed in excess of $6 million to childhood cancer research. That's an average of $400,000 per year going directly towards finding a cure.
For 34 days, great camaraderie and just such an enjoyable way to raise money.
You've come back in great shape. How did the bike look?
Well, after a wash, it looks a lot better than I did when I got back, I can tell you.
But for this funding to continue, more is needed. Many requests are received to fund new research programs, and there are literally hundreds of worthy ideas that deserve to be investigated.
My understanding from speaking with researchers that a cure is achievable for childhood cancer, and they're very excited.
I mean, I'd like to say to people thinking of donating to childhood cancer that really there isn't anyone else going to do this. We get very little support from the pharmaceutical and drug discovery industry, and in many ways you personally are joining our team to advocate for children who are diagnosed with cancer, who have got their cancer through no fault of their own.
Well, new research isn't warm and fuzzy. New research is something that you can't look at, put a finger on. It's something that takes many, many years. But what you need to do is to do the hard yards with the research and put the funding into that.
It is vital that the community understands that they are doing a job for all of the kids across Australia and probably internationally who develop cancer.
One of the things that I discovered going through the journey that I've been through is that kids don't have a voice. We have to be their voice to raise money for research, to give them an opportunity of a long life. Because when they're going through the treatment themselves, their family is just in complete disarray. They haven't got time or energy to be, doing anything other than just getting through the day. And then once they're well, the majority of them, they get back on with their normal life and, life is great.
The missing link between the research and the cure is funding. To bridge that gap and to fund essential research, more corporate sponsorship is needed. And in doing so, we can be the voice for children who can't speak for themselves.
Well, how important is a child's life? The foundation, the goal of the foundation, and it was Stephen's goal, is to make sure no child never goes through what he and his family went through.
I'd just like to say to all of our supporters, our volunteers and our sponsors, heartfelt gratitude from myself personally and from all of the kids that are benefiting from your support.
From a mother who's been through watching her child have this awful, debilitating disease, I thank you. That's the biggest thing. A really, really big, heartfelt thank you. And please continue to do so, because one day, if it's not you, it'll be someone close to you, and we've just got to try and put an end to it.
With children with cancer, it's such a long loss of life, such a huge loss of time of life and years lost. And these are kids that one day could be working for your company.
3 children are dying every week in Australia from childhood cancer. Our goal is 100% survival for every child that's diagnosed with cancer. The way that we can stop that is by research, and research needs money. So what we actually want is your support and money to help with research.
We all have hopes and dreams for our own future, but sometimes all we need is perspective.
That's easy for me. I hope to be out of a job pretty soon.
My immediate hope would be that Maria, I get to see her live a long and wonderful life, have children, enjoy motherhood, enjoy what life has to offer.
My hope for the future is that none of my family in the future gets sick with cancer or try not to go in hospital, and also anyone else out there.
Maybe if they found a vaccination for it through all their research, we'd get rid of this problem so that, everyone's not living this nightmare as we are living it now.
While hope's important, you've got to have a plan and you've got to take action. And that's what, and thankfully through the research that the foundation does, they do take action and they do have a plan. And as part of that, I do hope that they do reach a cure for cancer.
You believe that something good will come your way eventually, and hoping, like always hoping, will get you somewhere in life. So it does help when you have hope.
Please help the Stephen Walter Children's Cancer Foundation meet the challenge of 100% survival for all children diagnosed with cancer and the prevention of their suffering. Let's give our children the hope for the future that they all deserve.
When the announcement comes that they've actually found a cure for childhood cancer, and kids that are diagnosed with cancer can just go and take a pill or something simple, that would be a magical day for me. And I hope I live long enough to see it.